Thank you for tuning in to Behind Marketing Lines, where stories fuel growth. I'm your host, Zeeshan, and today my guest is Alvaro Martinez. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Alvaro.
You did. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for taking time out.
Happy to be here.
I have a lot of questions prepared for you, and I'm sure you must
Please
have.
shoot.
Okay,
I'm ready.
all right.
Go for it.
What if your life was a movie? What's the opening scene like, and what's the movie title?
I would say like a beach, looking at the horizon, sun coming up. I'm kind of used to a lot of new beginnings. I get a lot of the, I would say, seasoning of life from starting new things.
Interesting.
Which is also why, in my job as well as in my personal life, I like something very dynamic. I become bored very easy. I do like my routine, however, I would say, but I like to do new things, be faced with new challenges, overcome new problems, having to face different stages for my, kids' daily life with my wife, move to different places around the world.
So what's the title? What would you call it?
Starting again.
Starting again? No, I like it.
Every new beginning is an opportunity to do things, but taking all of the learnings that you've had on your past experiences, right?
That is correct.
That's what a little bit of life is about. It's just being a little bit better every day. Try to be a better version of yourself, on a compound effect, as you would say, in a business setting. If you aim for that, life becomes good.
What if your life was a book? What's the chapter we are at right now?
So look, first of all, I'll have to think about how many chapters would I want it to have, but I would say right now it's the chapter of like genuinely growth is turbocharged. Okay. And the reason why I say that is we're born, then we are smaller kids, we grow a little bit, we go through adolescence, you go through an early manhood or womanhood phase, in your 20s, your 30s, you try to start thinking, okay, now I need to start thinking somewhat about the future.
True.
My kids are like 6 years old and 4-year-old, so
nice.
They're in a very nice chapter of life. So I've already gone through that very heavy phase where like you cannot sleep every night, right? Which is
tell me about it.
It is a big one. It is a massive chapter. It conditions you a lot as a person, right?
True.
So now they're a little bit more independent. Of course, they need you a lot, but you don't need to be there all the time, which also gives you the freedom to now, with a lot more knowledge, a lot more experience, genuinely consider what decisions you're trying to make and where they're going to take you. And of course, they will always play a very important part in it, right? Because, one of the things that reflects this as a situation is when I was going to come to live to Dubai, maybe almost 2 years ago now, I said to my wife, look, we're going to have to move. So we were in Spain at that time. Where do we move? And we had two options, right? I was the CMO of Rappi for Mexico.
Interesting.
Again, like another company in the same industry as Talabat, in the food delivery industry. But also, I'd say because we're going to have to move and it's going to be my fault in a way, then at least you choose where you want to go, right? So we have the two options on the table. Where do you prefer to go? Do you prefer to go to Mexico City, or would you rather go to Dubai? And she said Dubai. And I think, of course, one of the big components of her decision was the safety and the multicultural environment in which you grow.
Agreed.
That is something that if you ask me when I was not even like a kid, because I don't really remember that much, but from an adolescence perspective, right, my teenage years and then going to university when I was 17, it is something that for me, I envied a lot in a positive way of some of my colleagues. Like her dad was from X country, her mom was from X country, but they had been living in different countries. Their mentality was completely different to mine. I'm not from a big city originally in Spain, from a city called Murcia in the southeast, which I'm very proud to be, by the way, but it's not the big city of Madrid or Barcelona. I don't come from a big city. It's a very agricultural city, people, the quality of life is amazing, right? But of course,
Of course it is, yes.
you don't have the huge corporations that you would have in a big city like Madrid or Barcelona, for example, right? And so it defines you in a way. I remember again, like when I was doing my master's, I had the pleasure of doing it at the London School of Economics, and I remember I was one of the youngest in my class. I was 22 when I did my master's, and normally people were a little bit older, like 27, 28, 30. And I had colleagues like that had worked for the World Bank, the UN, like they had lived in like 4 or 5 different countries. Like when the summer vacation approached, they were, just traveling everywhere. And I'm like, well, I'm going back to Spain, to my city, to see my family. So it wasn't the same. And so now, from that perspective, it is something that I am very happy to be able to provide my kids with that experience.
I totally agree with you. And UAE is a melting pot of cultures, right? And you get every flavor here, and which is amazing. And plus the safety, the security, I think it's second to none in the world.
Agreed.
How did you get into marketing?
My background is actually business and finance, which is funny. When I finished my undergrad degree, as I was saying, I went straight for my master's the next year, and I studied business development. And when I finished my master's, which was about 2 years between, the course and then completing like the final, project that you need to present to actually graduate, I remember that it was the inception of digital advertising.
Right.
I thought, okay, this looks exciting. Like it's something new. I thought it was going to be the future. It became being the case, but in a very different way than what I expected.
Right.
And of course, it also was going to allow me to get very close companies and advertisers, which I was, of course, very much, in love with. Let's say, the Googles, the Amazons, the Facebooks of the world back in the day. The concept of marketing, it's very much ambiguous. So I like to truly define it, because some people think about marketing and they think about communication. Some people think about marketing and they think about advertising. Some people think about marketing and they can think of things like growth, pricing, all of the like omni-channel management, right? So I would say that marketing has a lot of components.
Agreed.
I'm super grateful because I have probably touched upon all of them throughout the course of my career. But actually today, in my current role, I also have pretty much all of them under my umbrella. And so, to be able to genuinely tweak the machine, like to adapt for business growth, it is pretty impressive. And by the way, marketing is not short of financial decisions that you have to make.
That
right?
is correct.
Around budget governance and, ROI and your cost per acquisitions and your monthly active users and your cost of retention. So I think there is a lot of finance in there, which actually makes it much more interesting.
No, 100%. And I think what you mentioned resonates a lot with me, because personally, I come from a village back in Pakistan. It is like 3 hours from Islamabad, the main city.
Mm-hmm.
And when I landed into university in Islamabad, I was like, okay, what's going on? Where is the world going, right? And I was fortunate enough when I graduated, it was still sort of the Mad Men era, right? The old type of marketing was still in practice. We studied Philip Kotler and
Yes.
4 Ps and the 5 Ps and now the 7 Ps of marketing and all those
I
things,
remember
right?
that, yes.
And you mentioned many fields under marketing. My uncle, who was a medical practitioner back in the days, he was a doctor, thought marketing means sales. When I graduated, he called me to his home and he's like, okay, now that you have graduated and I want you to have a stable job, so I've asked somebody in the pharmaceutical industry to get you a job into pharmaceutical sales. I was like, but I'm not a salesman. He's like, but you just got a degree in sales. I was like, no, I didn't. I got a degree in marketing. He's like, so what's the difference? And I had to sit down and explain to him that there is a big difference. I mean, for me, sales might be a part of marketing or the other way around, right? And we can have a debate around it.
Indeed.
And then we can have a debate around should they go hand in hand, should they work in silos and all those things. But that is how the start was, right? And then coming here, moving to Dubai, and then being able to, apply some of the learnings that I had from academia, because that's how I started my career. I got into academia early on, did my master's, a research-based one, and I wanted to do a PhD and teach, and then I got into the professional life, and then there was a big disconnect between the both, and it got me thinking, what went wrong? Did I study at the wrong marketing school? When I looked at the curriculum of some of the fancy institutes in the world, it was all the same, and then I realized, okay, there is a big disconnect. Somebody needs to bridge that. But well, thank you very much for sharing that story, and now we know how you got into marketing.
Yes.
So was there a plot twist in the journey so far, or was it a smooth ride? You got into marketing and it skyrocketed.
No. It was not a smooth ride. Being adaptable is probably one of the biggest qualities that anyone who does medium to very well in life tends to have.
Agreed.
And by the way, I never like to judge myself on that front, because, I think success can be defined in many different ways, and there are different optics to people.
Agreed.
Having more time to oneself may be a way of being, more successful. Having a high-ranking job may be success. It can be different things, right? Living at peace.
I was about to mention
Being
that.
at peace with
Agreed.
yourself just by sitting down and not doing massive amount of things, or just not craving for that, the higher level of professional career. It's not been a smooth ride, in the sense that, at least my experience is not, one single career path, and then it just seems to just go along in the same way. I started in digital advertising. I moved to account management within another agency. Then I moved to being a digital director, which was more of a sales role. Then from then I went to the client side, and I was doing like e-commerce for an airline.
Interesting.
Then I moved to banking, and I did like a lot of like omni-channel marketing, product marketing. We developed all the onboarding processes for that specific bank, which had 0 digital sales in that day, and within 3 years moved it to like 40%. And then from there, like I went to like a startup, right? CEO of a very small startup which focused on agricultural technology. So I did that for like a couple of years during COVID, and then I kind of moved back to banking/fintech. And then I think the transition to sort of food delivery is because I was at Rappi Pay, which is it's the financial arm of Rappi, right? It's like a fintech bank.
Right.
So then I moved back to CRM, growth, and everything related within the grocery, retail, and food delivery industry.
Interesting. So you have seen it all.
I'm still very curious to see a lot more, especially at the pace that things are evolving with AI and the like. So I'm still very much expecting to see many more things. I think there are big shifts coming in very different industries, by the way.
Oh, well, they are, yes. And on a very rapid speed, they're
Yes.
coming.
Very much.
Are you working on something right now which excites you the most, or anything at work which is like really exciting?
Look, I'll be honest. The answer is no. I'm not really working that much on anything else. I must admit that right now the job is pretty intense.
Right.
I'm at also the stage where my little daughter, she's learning to write and to read. It excites me a lot, by the way. I wouldn't consider it a job because I truly enjoy it. It helps me spend time with her, and also, together with my wife, guide her through this next step, which is, being able to absorb everything that the world has to offer through writing, right?
Agreed.
But I would say that's my main focus at the moment. It goes like big time between work and family. And, I try to exercise a little bit from time to time.
My youngest is also 3 years old, and she's not at the writing phase, but she's at the learning phase. And now she's learning 3 languages simultaneously: English, Arabic, and Urdu, the language that we
Correct.
speak at home.
Same with the difference of switch Urdu for Spanish, and it's the same case in my home, yeah.
The kids would be different than us. I mean, at least this is what I believe.
I hope. I was counting the other day, how many nationalities my daughter has got in her class. It's a class of 22 or 24. And there are like 14 different nationalities in one single class.
Amazing.
Like, I mean, that to me, back in the day, that was unheard of, right? So it will definitely mark them in a very positive way.
That is true. So you have a family life, you're running marketing for Talabat, which in itself is, many jobs
Yeah,
simultaneously.
yeah.
If we were to zoom into a day in your life for the viewers and the listeners to learn from, like, how do you manage all this? So how does it start? How does it end? And how do you accomplish all this in between?
Look, I will divide into two types of days, right? And I think
Right.
if I cover those two types of days, I will be covering, I would say, 90% of how it is a day in my life, right?
Okay.
In my work life. So I'm an early riser, right?
Right.
Again, that is preconditioned by the fact that my kids have to get the school bus by 6:40 a.m. So I need to, like, between me and my wife, like, we alternate. But when it's my turn, it's like 6 a.m. Get up, get them ready, get the lunch boxes, etc. And then I will shower and go to the office. I like to arrive around 8, quarter past 8. Also, traffic is a little bit smoother at that time,
Oh, well,
which
tell
has
me
been
about it.
yeah. I sit down, I read through my emails, I look at my calendar. I look at the meetings that I have. And again, two types of days, the ones where I have back-to-back meetings and the days where luckily I have some spaces in between. For the days in which I have almost back-to-back meetings, they are mentally very draining, right? Because you need to be engaged in the conversations,
So true.
and it's where things happen and decisions are made, right? So a lot of people, when I remember when I started my career, like, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in a work meeting, right? And I felt somewhat important.
Right.
Now I feel like, God, I'm in a meeting. I really need to get, like, work done. And I feel like I don't have time to do it. I have a check-in and a check-out on a weekly basis with my minus ones, my direct reports, to set the priorities for the week.
Okay.
Because if that is done, it already sets the stage for what everyone is going to focus their efforts for that particular week. And I think that is very, very important, right? And then I normally do a checkout. This is normally on Monday mornings before the whole mayhem starts. And then, let's say midweek, late week, around Thursday morning, then I do the checkouts, which is, okay, what is the progress on what we said that were going to be the priorities for the week? Of course, understanding that along as the days of the week go past, then you will see things popping up which were not planned for or scheduled for, right? That is just business as usual, let's just say. Especially in such a fast-paced industry like where Talabat is at. The other part of what my day would be like in a day which is not so packed with meetings is normally debriefing and ideating new ways to go about growth. What do we have to do from a CRM perspective? Which new flows can we launch? How can we reallocate money? Which cohorts or user segments are we going to focus on? What is the experience that we want them to have? Why is it that we want them to have that experience? What is the final objective that we want to get out of it? With performance marketing, like, how do we want to go about our acquisitions and our retentions? How do we want to manage our growth for our quick commerce vertical, both T-Mart and local shops, flowers, pets, etc.? How do we want to go about pricing? Do we want to do an area level pricing? Do we gonna do a city level pricing? Do we want to do sub area pricing? Which is also impacts growth, right? It is always a balance between
100%.
growth and monetization. Everything happens in between. There is never one full focus and then the other left aside. It's always a good mix of both. Those decisions are part of the day-to-day, right? Some of them are easier, some of them are a little bit more complex. I think as a business, the more mature that you become, the harder that the exponential gains come
so
about,
true.
right?
Totally agree.
So you always need to work on the small increments so that they compound to something meaningful in the end.
That is so true, and I think it resonates with me as well. At one of the previous workplaces I had, we were a legacy company with 25, 30 years of experience, and there was only one way we were doing business. And then we supercharged everything from marketing to operations to sales. And all of a sudden, the graph was going like this and it went up like this. Then it was incremental
It
growth,
plateaued.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's so true. And those small wins at the end of the day, they compound
Yeah,
together.
they do compound, and they're very important. And it's it's hard sometimes to keep the motivation for the teams when that happens because they're not very obvious.
So true.
As a leader, you have to take care of your people, and I think that is extremely important. I think it's becoming more and more important. I think being very people-oriented, it's very relevant. Right?
That is so true. And being a marketing leader, I think there are many times that you have to have those discussions with your team and the people that you're reporting to.
Expectations management becomes one of the single biggest factors that you have to take care of on your day-to-day. But you never can forget that whatever happens, it's never the byproduct just of yourself. There is a team behind it that makes it happen.
That is so true. So what's one thing or lesson that you learned the hard way in your career?
This is going to sound a little bit cliche, but they say perfection is the enemy of practicality.
Right.
And it's very true, because sometimes we spend so much time doing analysis, creating frameworks, looking at data. And sometimes we do so much, which we come to like this analysis paralysis, where we are analyzing a lot, but executing very little. And I think one of the single biggest leap forwards that we, as not only in Talabat, but I think in the business world as a whole, is to come to terms with failing fast and experimenting, right? I think if you consider what is the best way to learn to do something, you don't find that in the books. You learn by genuinely getting down and doing it.
Yeah, getting your hands dirty, and that is how you will learn.
Right? And look, if you fail, at least you learn things, right? That you can then reapply.
If you were teaching a crash course to your younger self, maybe 15, 20 years from now, what chapter would you be teaching today?
Oh, patience.
Right.
Yeah. When I speak to people in my team, which I trust, and they come for guidance, which is not many, but some of them do, because of course I get it. There is also a hierarchy which it's invisible and it just gets in the way, right? But at the end of the day, we're all people.
Agreed.
Think about like the mental health, like, when I was younger, it was an absolute taboo.
Yeah,
like people really didn't talk about it. Like, it's like, oh, this guy is crazy. That's how people thought about it.
Agreed.
For me, I just think you also need to learn to enjoy the journey, right? The destination it's not important. I mean, saying it's not important, baby, is not totally true, but it is important. But I think if you get to where you wanted to get, and you look back 20 years and say, I'm where I wanted to be, but I have not enjoyed the journey to get here, oof, that must weigh heavily on your conscience, huh?
That is so true.
And that doesn't mean that everything is going to be, rosy, right? It's not going to be all, rainbows and unicorns. Like, you're going to have...
That's the best part of it, right?
I'm a huge admirer of, like, the entrepreneurial community.
Right.
Because you need to have something special to go through that pain, through that insecurity, to start from scratch, right? To leave your corporate job, where you get paid a lot, right? Or even if you don't get paid that much, but where you have that sense of security.
Agreed.
Which gives you that sense of self-worth, right? And then leave everything behind to start something anew and, invest everything on it, right? Your time, some money, if not all, right? You need to be extremely brave. I think they're made of another material.
Now I'll move to the rapid fire round, and I have a few personal and a few professional questions.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the professional ones. SEO versus paid marketing.
They're both important. I think they complement each other.
Brand marketing versus performance marketing.
Performance marketing.
Creativity or data.
Data.
Startup hustle or corporate structure.
Ooh, I would say I'm in the middle.
Okay.
Really, I'm in the middle.
Books or podcasts.
Podcast.
Okay. LinkedIn or Instagram.
LinkedIn.
AI or human intuition.
Human intuition.
Global campaigns or local activations.
Global campaigns with local flavor. I think that is doable.
TV ads or TikTok reels.
I don't have TikTok, I will admit, but I prefer TikTok reels.
Working from office or remote working.
office.
Risk taking or playing it safe?
Risk taking.
Customer first or product first?
Customer first.
A few personal questions. So, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Mountains or beaches?
Mountains.
Reading or web series?
Series.
Solo travel or group trips?
I love my solo travels. But then I must admit, I love traveling with my kids too.
Are you a minimalist or a collector?
I think I'm more of a minimalist.
City life or countryside?
I love countryside.
So do I.
I really, really do. But of course, the majority of the jobs happen in the city. And my parents, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago now, bought like a house which is just in the outskirts of the city.
Okay.
But it's still very, very close. Like I'm talking 2 kilometers close.
Right.
Right? But you have space, you have some land, you have like a sort of like a 1-floor house type thing.
Wow.
And we have like lemon trees, orange trees, fig trees, pomegranate trees, peach trees,
Interesting.
and chickens. For a period of time when I was remodeling a flat that we bought in Spain, my wife and I, we had to live at that house for a few months. And I absolutely loved it. And I always said to my wife, I'm gonna get us a plot of land. We're gonna build like a nice wooden house, just. And she's like, no, I want the city. She's a city girl.
Right.
But yeah, I love rustic, yeah, for sure.
We have that in common too. So I actually bought a piece of land back home in Pakistan, and it's still a work in progress. I think for next couple of years it is
It'll
going
always
to
be a work in progress, by the way.
Exactly.
You'll see that.
But it's my personal project, and I really love it. So far I've just been able to build some walls and put some trees. That's it. And I have somebody over there who just takes care of the plants and all. I know constructing it would be, a bigger project.
Yeah, for sure.
They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So similarly, whatever happens behind marketing lines stays behind marketing lines.
Not quite, but okay. I'll follow
So
you.
I would like to know one funny incident from your marketing career that you never mentioned to anyone, but you would like to share today with the audience.
When you run any big campaigns, you have to deal with a lot of creatives.
Agreed.
This was one that made me laugh for days, and it wasn't actually anything that I did wrong, but I think if we look at it from today's lens, it would be almost unacceptable.
Okay.
Right? So I was working in my first ad agency.
Right.
And we had a huge client called Google.
Oh, okay.
Right? And it was just at the time where Google Street View was becoming a thing.
Right.
Right? Very early days. I remember having this creative that was sent to us by the creative agency. And they had, it was like a street, right? And they had a guy on a wheelchair, and the copy was, "What is your street view?"
Okay.
It is funny to begin with. And this is not me trying to make jokes of anybody's disabilities by any means. I think quite the opposite. But at that point, we didn't take that as in a bad way. Right. Now I think we have become so oversensitive with race, with religion, with politics.
That is correct.
Back in the day, I think we were a little bit more free, I would say, in that space. It was funny because from a personal perspective, there was something wrong to me. But the campaign was highly successful, and it was, something that people was like, okay, we are giving visibility to people with disabilities, which today is a very normal thing, and it's brilliant. But yeah, that was a bit of a funny story.
This is my favorite question. If your life was a marketing campaign, what would the tagline be?
Never stop.
Never stop. I like it.
This is very much repeated in movies and things like that. But whether you're going through amazing times or not so amazing times, I think there is one key element which is common ground, and it's never stop moving. Because the world does not stop for you or for anybody.
That is correct.
When somebody stops to move, I think movement is the essence of life. And you can, take it in a very philosophical way, or you can take it in a very pragmatic way.
True. When you stop, you're dead. right?
Something like that. I mean, when they ask old people that are working still because they just don't want to stop, they're like, no, if I stop, I die, like, right? And there are so
Agreed.
many, like, at least, you ask all the people in Spain, well, maybe Spain is not the best case scenario because, the quality of life for people, for retired people is very, very good. But even if it's not working, but it is to just do something, right? Find whatever it is that motivates you to get up every day and have something to do.
Right.
Whatever that is, work or otherwise, I think is extremely important.
What's one piece of advice that you have ever received and you loved it and it stayed with you?
I hate to say this a little bit because I'm very impatient and I don't really like this, but I myself believe in a little bit of destiny, if you want to call it that way.
Right.
So I think there is the right timing for everything. Sometimes we try to push things and, they don't happen organically. It seems like things are costing you a lot to get through, right? Maybe that's not necessarily for you at that point in time, right? So I think that's very important. I think you need to take some time to reflect and say, okay, what if you start to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? That's what they say is the definition of crazy, right? But at the same time, it's true. If you want to get a different result, you have to try different things, right?
That's
And
correct.
I think tying back to the movement piece, I think you can never stop moving. It may not be what you exactly want at that moment in time, but it may be preparing you for something else that you yet don't know that it's coming.
That's very deep.
It's a very, it depends very much on what is your set of beliefs, right? There are very scientific, pragmatic people which don't believe in destiny, and again, completely respectable. I'm sure that they will be like, okay, this is BS, right? And it's fine. Like, I mean, but if I have to tell you how I conduct my life, in a way, I try, and I fail very often, to trust the process.
Interesting. And if you were to describe your journey so far in 3 words, what those 3 words would be, and since we are marketers, what are those 3 keywords?
Intense,
Okay.
humbling, and rewarding.
Interesting. I'm glad it is rewarding. What if marketing as we know it today was to disappear tomorrow? So, what one thing would you go out, fight, and bring it back? I mean, you get up one day, tomorrow morning, and you see that, okay, marketing is gone. There is nothing. And then you wear your superhero cape and you go out and, you bring it back, like in the movies.
I would say growth. The growth piece for me, it's the best one. I think it's the one that I enjoy the most.
Yeah, because it's scientific, right?
In a way, yes, but it's also very experimental.
True.
You never know what's going to be the right thing, right? You don't hit jackpot by design. You hit jackpot by default of just trying and trying and trying, right?
You must have put a lot of billboards out there in different parts of the world. But what if, destiny gives you a chance to put a billboard on Sheikh Zayed Road about yourself? What would the billboard read?
Enjoy the journey.
That is very important. And I think
Yeah.
for the viewers as well, I mean, you need to enjoy the journey. You need to enjoy it today because this day, today, is not going to come back.
We're never guaranteed tomorrow, right? I think if we look at it from that perspective, there is a lot of people that, again, depending on religion, set of beliefs, etc.,
Agreed.
where they feel that death is scary. I think death is humbling because it doesn't matter if you're like Jeff Bezos or if you are, a server at a restaurant, very, very respectable profession, both of them. At the end, we all have the same end, right?
That is correct. And that is so true. So, which brings me to the last question, and which is very much closer to what we just discussed. So, when the credits roll on your professional journey, what would you want those lines to read?
Good leader, because
Right.
I think that encompasses many things that I don't know if I always get through, but I promise you that I try, right? And the best that I can do is try. It has a very human element to it. It has a empathy element. It has a guidance element. It has a how do you put knowledge into practice element. It has a understanding and knowing when to say no, when to not overcommit and under-deliver. To understand even what are your own limitations, what are you willing to go through and what are you not willing to go through. That is very important. And I think I'm amazed and at the same time very positively envious at people that know themselves very well. Like, I mean, and I will tell you a very small story. Like, you know, my daughter, I mentioned, she's going to be 6 years old this weekend. But I will tell you one thing, which is the level of emotional intelligence that she handles at 5 years of age, almost 6. I think it's way beyond what I was able to handle when I was maybe like 15.
Agreed.
And I don't mean only because, I mean, of course, we need to contextualize this, but the being able to say, I need to be alone with myself to process my emotions, which is something that, you know, luckily schools are very much teaching today.
True.
For me, was swallow them up, carry on.
That is true.
Sometimes it becomes very, very difficult.
Well, we practically got the military training when we were growing up, right? It was very insightful. Thank you very much.
I hope so.
I would actually call it a masterclass on leading, especially leadership, you know, managing teams, managing campaigns. Last question. Starting from a village in Spain to studying in London, and then, you know, traveling across the globe, working in Netherlands and Latin America, and now in the melting pot of cultures. What's one piece of advice you would want to give to marketers, especially who have a very humble start, how to get started and, you know, how to stay consistent to make it to this level?
Understand context, right? I think understanding context is very important. And I mean, you can't take away, let's say, you know, frameworks and, you know, ways of working and all of that, but you know, local culture, local context will always need to supersede that. Those will always be your overarching elements that you need to genuinely build upon.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me here. It was an absolute pleasure. I really hope the viewers also enjoy.
Oh, definitely. I'm pretty sure that your perspective will add a lot of value.
I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Behind Marketing Lines. This was the story of Álvaro Martinez.
Correct.
Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.